Welcome to The Author Next Door, where hosts Angela Haas and Cassie Newell chat about the wild world of writing and publishing. Join them for weekly episodes and special monthly guests. Pull up a chair. The conversation starts now.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is episode 14. It's a new month. It's April, and we're talking about craft. I'm Cassie Newell, and I'm here with my co-host, Angela Haas. This is going to be such a fun month. This episode, we're kicking off our craft fair discussions, exploring what we love about craft all month long. So let's talk about some of our favorite resources we like. I know that Angela and I kind of prepared ahead of time to talk about the resources that we enjoy and that have inspired us and given us some information to move our skill set forward. So with that, Angela, I'm going to hand it off to you and talk about maybe one of the first resources you want to talk about, and maybe we could go back and forth.
Yeah,
Does
that
that
sounds
sound good?
great.
Okay.
I think too, this just popped into my head. I wonder, just for some listeners, what do we mean by craft too? What
Yeah.
is actually the crafting piece of putting your novel together? And for me, I think it's picking genre, picking theme, your world building, building your characters. But that's what craft is. It's just all about building the different pieces and then putting them all together. When I started out, I knew infinity less than zero about actually crafting my novel. And I'm a pantser, which means I sort of fly by the seat of my pants. So I would write a scene, stick it in there, start at the end, work my way backward, but I didn't really have the knowledge to connect it all together. So I started looking for things that would help me. And actually, one of the very first things that I signed up for was the Story Grid. It's an editor certification. And while I didn't become an editor, because early on I figured if I'm editing other people's work, I'm never going to publish my first book.
Yeah.
But the Story Grid really breaks down each genre, their themes, what each genre requires, obligatory scenes, and I learned a lot. Then from there, I started joining different writers groups and then got different craft recommendations. So one of the first ones, I'm going to share this. Master List for Writers by Bryn Donovan. This is really helpful because it helps you with just 25 ways to write funny dialogue, making metaphors. It gets really specific. Sounds for settings. Sometimes you don't think about those things when you're writing, but just all kinds of different lists at a glance, and this one was really helpful. The other one was Wonder Book. Oh my gosh. Because I'm secretly 12 inside, I like pictures, okay? So this is all about world building, and it's the illustrated guide to creating imaginative fiction. But the way that Jeff Vandermeer has structured this book, I love how it's organized, but I love how there is a lot of visuals. Because I'm such a visual learner, this really is a helpful world building source. And then, of course, Sasha Black forever. She has so many books, but when I first learned about the anatomy of prose, she really does deep dives on all kinds of things. But when she was talking about writing with all five senses, and she really lays out how to use sound, sight, smell. Sometimes we only work from sight, right? But she really helped me incorporate all the other sensory information, and those were so helpful. So those are my top. The other one I'm going to put in the show notes is One Stop for Writers, and that's a website created by the authors of the emotion thesaurus, and it really is one stop for writers. It's kind of like a campfire kind of software, but it does help you with world building. There's an emotional wound thesaurus that will help you like build that into your characters. There's so much out there, but those are the ones that really stuck with me that I learned from. So how about you?
Yeah.
Where did you start? Like think back to your very first book that you were writing.
So for me, Deborah Chester, it's the fantasy fiction formula. If you've ever met me, I always talk about this book. It's my favorite. And I think it's just good for story, especially for beginners, because it talks about how to advance your plot really well. It's really good on world building, magic systems, letting you have your emotional playtime, all the things, but it's very organized in a way to tell you, how to craft conflict, how to ensure your scene doesn't fail, all the things. I mean, it's so good. And she was a professor, I believe, at the University of Oklahoma, if I'm not mistaken, as well. And she's written so many books, and Jim Butcher even recommends it. Like it's really pretty renowned. It's been around for a long time, but it is a staple. And whenever I feel super lost, I usually grab that. And when I was writing my young adult fantasy, it was also inspiring and motivating at the time. So that was heaven. And you were talking about the Emotion Thesaurus, which is one of my all-time reference books for craft, as you can see by all the ridiculous tabs that I have here. But, I am a writing coach as well. And I had this one client, and we were talking about how you work on character arcs. And maybe we'll talk about that later. But one of the simple ways to do that is when you're not sure, is pulling up your emotion thesaurus and deciding who your character is in the beginning. And then on the opposite side, find the emotion that's the opposite. And that's how they're going to get there. So you keep those two words very simply in place of your goalposts as you're writing your character. And I just find that really helpful. And at the beginning of this thesaurus, it's not just a thesaurus. They have these great like prelogue information on how to use it, how to demonstrate reactions and insecurities and comfort zones and all these things when you're building your character. And I just find it really, really helpful. It's like a go-to when I'm writing and I'm like, I'm not really sure how this person is going to be as I'm building them. And I use it a lot. And then kind of where I am in my stage of writing and my experience and background, this is one of my favorites, and it's The Anatomy of a Bestseller. And the reason why I like this book from Sacha Black is, there's so many times we talk about comps, right? Comps for books and how you're going to market and sell. Well, this is take the bestseller of those comps and break it down and figure out how they did it. And I love that. And it actually motivated me to deconstruct a number of novels and things. And when we say deconstruct, I know a lot of times you'll see on Bookstagram or Book Talk people highlighting and tabbing things. Well, it's very specific. It's around character, plot, motivation, conflict, trope, all the things that, encompass craft as we define it. But it really teaches you how to emulate those things as you're reading it and seeing it. And so you're not only reading for entertainment purposes. It does kind of ruin that for you a little bit. But I don't know. Sasha will say it's ruined reading for her. But for me, I can turn that side of my brain off and still entertainment read. But I have to focus when I'm deconstructing. And the last book, which I couldn't find on my shelf, it's probably next to my bed, is Romancing the Beat. I love that one. And even though it's romancing the beat for how to write beats and the structure for romance novels, I still find it really helpful outside of romance because it's very structured and it basically is teaching you how to manage tropes and conflict and ensuring you're getting your inciting incidents in, all the things. So I find it really helpful. It's a very skinny book. It's a really fast book, but it's a gem. So for me, those are probably my top. And I think the fiction formula, the fantasy fiction formula, is just an all-time favorite. So It's
Yeah.
just like, it's my number one to always recommend. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So when talking about craft, when you're in the drafting, crafting phase, what are your favorite pieces to create? Is it characters? Do you love the world building? What do you comes to you that's easy and what you love about craft?
Interesting. I think I'm a bit of a quilter. So I'm not a pantser. I'm not a super thick outliner. I call myself a quilter. Kind of did a little blog on that. I kind of piece things together as they come to me. I tend to go to character because I think character drives story. I am of the firm belief that plot is a backdrop to the activities that happen to characters for characters to make decisions, and characters drive the story. That's how I work, and I find characters to be the most important. However, with that said, I also think settings can be a character.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and I definitely leaned into that with Peachwood Grove
Yes, you
to a
did.
certain extent. So I think it's all in how you treat it. But for me, I'm a character girl, but I'm also not the character girl that has pages and pages of details about that character. That stuff drives me nuts. Because I am a quilter, I tend to have an idea of who my character is. Again, goalposts. For example, one character, I would say she's very ballsy and a boss babe, but she also has some sensitivity and she doesn't always get what she wants. So I have these two goalposts to write about her. But as I'm writing and moving around, I'm learning who she is. And so in the
Yes.
editing phase, I can tighten it up because now I know exactly who she is. And I like that discovery pantsy type thing because if I know everything about them, then I don't really care to write about them, which is awful to say. To me, I have to like my characters to write about them. And even villains, like I had some whoppers in my YA fantasy. I love a good, delicious villain. I'm quite wicked in that way. So, but I need to like them and understand their motivations. So for me, it is a character thing. What about you?
I would say characters first for me, but I first start with their personalities based on either Enneagram or Myers-Briggs. So I
Really?
love this. There's a website that I actually use in my professional career for training all the time. It's called 16personalities.com. And we'll put that link in show notes also for people who are interested. It's a really great simplified version of the Myers-Briggs test that you can take for free. But they also have all the personalities that you can just click on and study. So because I've done trainings, I know, what an ISTJ kind of personality is.
Right.
I'm an ENTJ. And for those listeners who don't know, each letter describes something different about our personality or energy level, whether we're introverted, extroverted, how we take in information, make decisions, and plan. So to me, if I know someone is an extroverted feeler, I know what kind of personality traits they have, and that helps me write that character. And then it also helps me have a framework to refer to. But I agree with you. Like, I've seen some of those character sheets that are so long. If it's pertinent to the story, yes, understanding what their favorite food is. In my plus one equals you, Rachel is obsessed with tater tots. Well, just potatoes in all forms. Maybe also because I am. But that came into play. And so I used that. That was part of the scenes that required tater tots, and it worked. Anyway, but I think getting down to, you know, their political beliefs, deepest fears, sometimes like you don't need all that to start. And I think that's sometimes what overwhelmed me, feeling like I had to have all this detail
Yeah.
before. Whereas for us, being a quilter, and I'm starting to outline more, but I'm a discovery writer in that I feel like you get to know your characters as you start writing them
Yeah.
because things
Well, they're
pop up where you're
2D.
like, yeah, where you
They're
start to
2D
write.
until you start using them in your story, right?
Exactly. So you don't want
Yeah,
to
for
be
sure.
too pigeonholed into their, you know,
Right.
how they would react to someone leaving a shopping cart in the middle of a parking space.
A good tip I gave a client too that was getting started who was overwhelmed by those type of character sheets. I said, cast them. Cast because she watches a lot of TV and movies and things. And I was like, cast them. She's
Mhm.
like, well, they're too old now. I'm like, don't look at the actor. Look at whatever movie or TV show they were in and cast them based on that character. And if you know how that character reacts in that show, you will know how the character is going to react and behave in your manuscript. Because sometimes I think too, like there are some really great books on characters and how to develop characters and, villains and all the things, which I think are fabulous to do. But if you're looking for something where you're like, I just want to go, I have this idea and I need to
Mhm.
fiddle and see, casting is such a great quick method to do. I love casting. And sometimes I'm casting based off of, and this is horrible, but it's like profiling based off looks. I don't really know the person. I don't know like what they've been in or whatever. It may just be a model, but I have an idea of how they're going to act. I think it's helpful because I'm visual too. So seeing them kind of helps because I'll be writing and I'm like, blue eyes, brown eyes, green eyes. What? Nope. There's the picture. Nope. Brown. Like, it kind of keeps it all together. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I agree. I lean into Pinterest heavily for that. So
Mm,
each novel has its own
yeah.
board where I have characters, but also I have world building ideas, like pictures of what the setting would be, houses or different buildings, stuff like that, because I struggle with world building. I can see it in my brain, but it's very difficult for me to write it in a prosy, beautiful way
Mm,
because the way that my brain works, I can see an image, but it's so hard for me to write it unless I see it. I have to see it. When I see the picture, then I can describe it. If I don't see a picture or something close, I struggle. So the world building for me, I don't know how that is for you, but it's tougher for me.
I don't know. That comes well, I would say it depends. It came really easy for me in the young adult fiction or fantasy that I wrote first, but I also wrote a full novel to pitch that was YA fantasy in third person, and I thought I had an idea of how it was. And when you read
Yeah.
my draft, like it needs some help. Like, it's those little lines of there's an arena. Well, what kind of arena?
Right.
Right? Like you have to kind of place the things around. So sometimes it comes easier to me than others. I like when I have the full freedom of full fiction make believe.
Hmm.
I love that because then it's open and all the things. When it gets a little bit more contemporary or true to life and I'm using a real city, I think it's a little heavy, but it's still fiction. So I don't know. I go back and forth. I think, again, I think I'm like you. I like to know visually and then I can kind of go from there. And sometimes I fill in my backgrounds and settings in the editing process.
Yes.
I'm a skinny drafter. I am a
Yeah.
fast, skinny drafter for the most part, although knock on wood, it's not going fast right now. And then I tend to do like these 3 rounds of edits, which are almost not really edits. They're more like building out because I write skinny. And then I come in and do the details because by the end of the book, I can see it.
Yeah.
And that's part of that pantsing quilting aspect because you've gotten to know everything. So I just
Yeah.
let myself not know everything up front sometimes on the setting or how something
Yeah.
looks inside until I get to the end. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, I know. And then I can fill it out.
Yeah. I'm the opposite with world building in that when I was doing the superhero fiction in like superheroes in space,
Right.
those worlds were very difficult to create. I could see them, but again, I could not get it on page very well. It took a lot of coaching and editing. When I wrote My Plus One Equals You, that takes place in Scottsdale, where I live part-time, that was like, oh
Easy
my
peasy.
gosh, I'm going to put the real restaurant in here I love. And I know exactly what it smells like and feels like. I've been in there. I love this place. And it translated on page because I love it so much. So I could describe it because I was sitting at the table. And that was so much easier for me than coming up with a fake world.
I know, because then I'm like, am I doing it due justice? You know, like
Right.
in my head. I don't feel that way on the makeup stuff. I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, I can do that.
Yeah. It's different for everyone.
It
And that's
is.
saying writers, you've got to find out what works for you.
And you don't know what works for you until you just keep at it. Right. Because I used to say, oh, I'm an outliner. And then I met some heavy outliners and I was like, no, I'm not quite like that. Because they will outline it almost as draft beats. Like there's not much to complete in between some really heavy outliners. And I was like, oh, wow, no, I have like 3 sentences.
Right.
This is happening, you know, and I kind of go to the end and then I'm like going back and I'm all around it. So, you know, I kind of was like, obviously an oddball, but anyway, it works for me.
You just have to do the research, get some input, and then find what works for you. I will say, I think whether you're a pantser or a plotter or a quilter, there are some steps with craft. I think researching comps, but also you still have to pick your genre, obviously, and understand what tropes and obligatory scenes and what reader expectations are with that genre. And then some people tell you to pick a theme. What is the theme of your novel? What is in one sentence? What's the character motivation? What's the overall lessons? Whether you want to do that or not, that's a premise, right? Then you start plotting, building character, world building, dialogue, setting. What plot structure are you following the hero or heroine's journey? You know, that's all part of craft. And I think there is something to say, like, you do have to start small sometimes and pick again, you know, genre, theme, basic character concepts before you can just start diving in, because that might save you some work later. If I have a
rework.
craft advice,
Yeah,
piece of
absolutely.
advice.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, what a great kickoff.
Yeah.
This is going to be a fun month because
I think so.
I have to say, yeah, as a coach and going through Author Accelerator and some of the other courses, and I know you've gone through, I am opinionated about a lot of things when it comes to craft. So this is going to be fun.
Yes. We have some great guests this month. But let's talk about some personal updates. What are you working on? Where are you? What's exciting in your
Oh my
life right now?
gosh. Oh, so many fun things. So I'm going to do a big shout out of something I haven't said yet. I'm doing audiobooks for the
So
short
exciting.
series. Can I just say the narrators? I'm so excited. I am so excited. I can't believe they're coming to life. So book 4 right now is launching April 15th, which is super exciting. And I've got big plans with print formats and audio formats that are happening. And it's just kind of amazing right now. So you heard it here first. That's what I'm doing. What have you been up to?
I've been moving out of a house, and that's all I'll say. That was crazy. And so it's hard to find balance when you have life events like that. I feel like I'm playing catch up and trying to get back into my writing routine. So I am just drafting my second romance, No Mountain High Enough, which takes place on a Colorado dude ranch. So we'll talk more about that as I get it written. But that's what I'm trying to focus on. I just haven't been doing much marketing, but I just giving myself grace and like, all I want to do right now is write and get more books out. And that's
I took
my
your
focus.
advice. I'm giving myself grace too because I have been awful about marketing and
I'm leaving that in. I'm going to leave it. I think that was hilarious. Okay. So for those who can't see us, the cat had to walk in front of the screen because as you cat owners know, they can't let you do this. They have to be like, also, I'm here. Do you understand that there's a cat in the room? Yeah. How about a table topic?
oh yes, let's get to it.
Okay.
But what I was trying to say before my cat rudely interrupted me was I took your advice and I gave myself grace because I haven't been marketing as hard either. I took your words of wisdom and I was just like, I can only do so much and that will break me. So I needed to back out just a little bit. So it's good advice.
Good. See? Sometimes I have some good advice. Mostly it's
Please, like
bad.
all the time.
Gosh,
Give
some
yourself
of
some
these are
credit.
terrible. All right. Okay, this is a good one. Is it worse to discover your fly is down, which I wear elastic waist all the time, so I don't have to worry about it. Spinach is in your teeth, or toilet paper is stuck to your shoe?
Which is worse?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I did have this experience and it was pretty awful. I was wearing lovely professional black pants. I was on stage in front of 1,000 people. My zipper was down and I was wearing white underwear. And I
My
got
gosh.
behind the podium because I felt it go down. It was like just not locking. You know how zippers like come in and lock?
Yeah.
But it had a flap over it, so I don't know exactly if it was
Probably no one saw it.
yapping or
I'm going
not.
to go with no one saw it. Yeah.
Well, a few people did because they said something to me. They were just like in the front row going like this. A couple of my colleagues, this was a big work thing. And I was just like, and I was younger too. And I was just like, oh my God. So I went behind the podium and I zipped up and I just kept talking, doing my presentation. And then as soon as I got off stage, I ran up to my hotel room and I put on a different pair of pants because I was like, you have failed me. But yeah, I felt like that was pretty awful. Like, I feel like I get stuff in my teeth all the time. So, I mean, it's not great, but and I haven't really walked out with toilet paper on my shoe, but
The moral of the story is elastic pull-up pants with no fly saves lives. I mean, that's just the moral.
that is.
So you did the right thing though by not drawing attention to it, because this is what I used to tell my speech students. Your audience won't remember your mistake, but they will remember your reaction to it.
Yeah.
So if you would have been like, oh my God,
in front of all the doctors and everybody in front of me, I'm like,
you were just like, eyes up here. What's your problem? Yeah.
It's like those pants betrayed me and were no longer my pants.
Yes, exactly. I personally, because I'm obsessed with things in my teeth, if I've had spinach in my teeth or something while I've been talking and no one says anything, hello, you are obligated to tell someone.
You are.
Because I'm just like talking along and I'm like, and then people are just, I can see it. They start to stare at my teeth and I'm like, something's in there.
My God. I have a funny story to tell you really quickly.
Yes.
My best friend, her name's Bonnie. I don't even know where we were. We were at some event together. And I'm talking like animated, full in conversation. She reaches up with her fingernails and yanks a hair out of my face.
Well,
oh my God. And she was like, it was really bothering me. I was like, well, thank you.
No, I think that's one hell of a friend right there.
I know.
Because it was bothering her, it's bothering other people.
She was like, I got your back. And I was like, I had no idea. I had some rogue hair on my face.
Seems like she's also got your front. Seems like she had you. That's great.
She had my back. It was awesome. Scared
Shout
the shit
out
out
to
of
Bonnie.
me, though. Anyway.
Amazing. What a great first episode.
So I want to thank everyone for joining us today and listening to us kick off April. Don't forget to give us a review and rating wherever you listen to the podcast. It really helps us with visibility. And definitely comment and tell us what you like and what other topics might interest you, especially around craft. And we've got a lot of time coming up over the year, so we would love to hear from you. Next week, we're talking with the dialogue doctor, Jeff Elkins, and it's not one you're going to want to miss because he is so fun and you get so much out of it. So I can't wait to have Jeff on the show. It's going to be a good one. All right. Well, with that, I guess we'll say farewell, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Happy writing.
Thanks for joining today's episode of The Author Next Door. Be sure to like, follow, and tell us your thoughts of this week's episode. Angela and Cassie would love to hear from you.